When asked what was the most important issue this election, my answer is the strength and integrity of Canadian democracy. And from what I've seen from this long, divisive, and exhausting election, is that we are in trouble. Or at least that's what I thought at the beginning of this election. And now I feel we're more at a crossroads, rather than a dead end. Elections are both the ultimate symbol and fundamental event of democracy. Voters are at the core of the electoral process. I want to provide a young voter's perspective on young voters in order to illuminate areas for improvement to transform our democracy for the better. As a senior political science student at SFU, this election has been the center of my world. I care about this election not only because of what I study, I care because I am a young woman, a student about to enter a precarious job market, a citizen paying bills and taxes, and an adventurer wanting to travel. I am invested in this election because it affects so many aspects of my life and much of your life too. It's a big deal, and it's time people started treating it that way. There are three main trends about young voter behavior this election that have been not given enough attention. The drop in voter turnout is the first and most obvious trend signaling a decline in Canadian democracy. However, it looks to be improving. Special ballots appeared for the first time on university campuses and attracted tens of thousands of student voters. Estimates put the voter turnout at about 68%. This is a huge improvement from past elections. This is a hopeful example of Canadian democracy being alive and well. But voter turnout alone is not enough. Were voters informed in their decisions? What were their intentions when they voted? Why didn't others vote? These are critical questions that I feel have not been answered or addressed since the election. I had the privilege of working for Elections Canada at the first ever PopUp Voting booths at SFU. It was uplifting to see so many of my peers enthusiastically exercising their democratic rights. Many say they would not have voted if it not been so convenient to do so, with stations literally outside of their classrooms. Somewhat disheartening, however, was the fact that so many university students had no idea how their electoral system works. This demonstrates the second trend, which is uninformed voters. A parliamentary government and first-past-the-post voting systems are by no means simple concepts, but having these intelligent people blindsided by completely foreign names on their ballot, or asking, when do I vote for the Prime Minister, is unacceptable. On the bright side, I was happy to give these first-time voters a crash course in Canadian democracy, but in line to vote is not the appropriate time to do so. This is a failing of not only our education system, but our democratic system for not informing citizens and the future of our country in how our governing system functions. The first step to increasing engagement is ensuring the basics of Canadian democracy are taught in school. The confusion stemming from our first-past-the-post voting system leads to the third and final trend, strategic voting. I noticed a lot of young people's attention was focused on this semi-organized movement. The goal to ensure the vote was not split between the Liberals, NDP, and Green to ensure an end of the Conservative majority. A key assumption of this movement is that this would be the last time we would have to vote this way, because these parties promise electoral change. The direct success of these campaigns is yet to be determined, but despite the intentions to improve our democracy, these strategies are inherently undemocratic. Most strategic voting campaigns I saw relied entirely on poll data, which is questionable in its value at best. For the record, I hate polls. They are misleading and completely given way too much attention. While working for Elections Canada, I heard a frightening amount of people imply they assumed advanced voting is what polls were, as in they thought they were actual calculated votes. These are not informed voters. These are people who have been actively misinformed. These campaigns got so much of young voter attention and wasted the opportunity to inform people on how they should be looking at parties. Critical thinking, weighing and comparing platforms, looking into history to see which of these parties will actually give us reform. Strategic voting seriously pisses me off, but it proves we have a broken system needing reform. So I strategically voted, and it was frustrating to have to compromise on my beliefs in order to have my vote mean anything. The dilemma produced by our unrepresentative system disempowers voters. Our well-intentioned alternatives are not ideal. We deserve the right to vote for who we truly want and have that vote count. This is a right we do not have. Electoral reform into a representative, that's not what it says. Electoral reform into a proportional representation system is necessary to fill a serious gap in our democracy. Before next election, actions must be taken to reinvigorate Canadian citizens to be informed, know they are heard, and necessary to the electoral process. Informed voters that know their vote will count are empowered voters, which are essential to a strong, lasting democracy.